Merry Christmas. There's a wonderful passage in the Thomas Gospel where the disciples asked Jesus, "When will the kingdom of heaven come?" And Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven will not come by waiting for it. It will not be a matter of saying, 'Here it is,' or 'There it is.' The kingdom of heaven is already spread upon the earth, but people do not see it." This is a very important passage, a very important message. So I've been having a conversation with a friend who's quite dedicated, quite sincere about this awakening process and doing this initial investigation into the nature of identity, into the nature of thought, into the nature of self. And the conversation's one I've had many times in many forms with many people. You know, one side effect of doing what I do is that I know as I work with people, as people read the book I wrote, as people watch these videos, is that at least initially, there will be a sense that awakening is this event that's going to happen later, that you're moving toward it, that what you're learning or what you're forgetting or what you're working toward is something in the future. It's just not that way. The truth of it is, it really is already right here. It's clearly right here. It's undeniably right here. And yet, the experience of being someone moving through time, seeking it, seeking an experience, seeking any experience, not just the experience of awakening, is distracting attention enough, distracting the mind enough that it's somehow obscured. So awakeness is already awake. Awakeness is already here. But the difference is there can be a knowing of the awake nature, and there can be a sort of overlooking of the awake nature. That may sound like a very subtle distinction, and in one sense it is quite subtle. At the same time, experientially, it's really night and day. So, what is the significance of this pointing, this way of describing the difference between an event that's going to happen in time and a non-event that may or may not be discovered right now in depth? What is the distinction? How are those different? Well, perhaps to the mind they're not. To the process of identification, the process of the experience of there being something or someone who's discrete and apart from everything, moving from one thought to the next thought to the next thought, such that it turns into a thought stream that's not even recognized as thought anymore. To that process, there really isn't a difference, because that process has to use time. It has to orient out to something out there, something that's not here. So this exact movement of seeking, this exact movement of expectation, anticipation, working toward, is the illusion. It's the fundamental illusion. It's the illusion of time. And in that passage, Christ pointed out two things very clearly. One is, it will not come by expectation. It will not come later. That's pointing to the truth that it's not in time. What's being sought, what's being discussed in that passage is not in time. It has nothing to do with time. Interestingly, he also says, and it's not something where you're going to say it's there or it's here. So, at least in my reading, he's actually pointing to the fact that it's not in space either, which is a deeper insight. It's a deeper stage of realization ultimately. But that's neither here nor there at this point. Without that first movement of realization, which is essentially breaking free of the hypnosis of time and seeking and the seeker, the deeper insights will remain obscured. So how do we break through? How do we let go of the illusory timeline? How do we see that the series of thoughts do not represent an arrow of time. They do not represent something, some discrete one called me, moving through time. Well, we look closely. Notice those are only thoughts. Do you find any evidence of time right now in your immediate experience without believing the content of a thought, without believing the narrative of thoughts? Do you find the actual experience of time? Now, this can become theoretical very easily, very quickly, because where are you going to look except for thoughts to answer a question like that? So this is why we often point people to an investigation of their true nature, the sense of I, the sense of being, the sense of that which is independent of thought, and it's also independent of time. But the belief in self is strong, so it's easier to start there. The belief in time is kind of a side effect. The belief that I am, that I exist, is strong, right? It feels true. And strangely, we've never really looked that closely at it. That's what this initial pointing, this self-inquiry is about. If you realize the nature of self with a capital S, if you realize the nature of being independent of thought, time, space, action, then the timeline will be broken. You'll know what eternity is because you'll be feeling it. It'll be obvious. That there is no past and future will be completely obvious. So, the pointing of turning attention back into its source, into the sense of being, pure being, or knowing without an object of knowing, which is a thought, is pretty skillful because we already take for granted that it's there. We assume it's there. We have a feeling that I am. There's a sense of that. So there's somewhere to look. There's somewhere to rest back into. Whereas if we talk about time, we have to go into thoughts because there is no sense of time when you look closely enough. So this self-inquiry, this resting back in the I am sense, this looking at where a thought about me arises, changes, and subsides, and then noticing there's some viewpoint or experience which is not affected by that. It was there before, during, and after the thought. What is that? Who is that? Where is that? So we just keep gently probing with curiosity until it hits us over the head. I've never been apart from it. Never could be apart from it. Never gone anywhere. I've never been in the past. I'm not moving into the future. What I am is not contingent upon any thought, any experience, any activity. That's the clarity of unbound being, unbound consciousness. So just keep gently probing around in your own experience. If it feels like I am something, including I am curious, I am stuck, I am bored, try to see what it's like without the curious, stuck, and bored. What is the I am without a predicate? What is the I am without a definition? How does it feel? Not through description, through feeling, through experience. What if you just didn't have to move from it at all? What if I am just stopped conjugating itself to anything, with anything? How's that? What if you just stopped moving the mind? There's something still here, obviously, and it's you. That's the sense. So once you sense it, stay with it. There's a little bit of a balance between alertness to assure that you're not becoming bound into a thought, and a relaxation. Relaxation means you're not grasping and clinging for thoughts. You're not trying to escape from the experience. You're not trying to grasp for the next experience. So once you feel that balance, feel, not think about, and there's just the I am sense, just the sense of being with no labels, just remain there. There's nothing more you need to do. Don't anticipate the next step. The kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth, but people do not see it. So it's already here. First you become curious, then you start probing, then you see how much of what you believe is thoughts. Then you realize you don't have to believe anything to define yourself. The experience of self is not backward extrapolated from a thought, from a belief. But it will seem like that for a while until you break free of the beliefs and thoughts. Then you'll see that it's independent of all experience. Just stay there, and the kingdom of heaven will be naturally revealed.